Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with Speakeasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. We are back at it with a brand new episode 51. And I've got an awesome guest from Michigan, where I grew up. I have definitely a deep connection to the state of Michigan, as I grew up in that area. And now I get to talk to somebody that I've recently connected with through friends, and this is how it normally happens with this podcast. Is I get introduced to people, and then I get to talk to people like Tina Marie. So Tina Marie, welcome to Speakeasy HR. How are you today?
I'm fabulous. How are you today, David?
It is it's good. It's November. We are getting into the holiday season. We got a couple inches of snow on the ground already, which is crazy. So, it's going well. It's going really well. I'm not like a big summer guy. Like, I like the summer, and obviously Northern Michigan, the summer is awesome. But like here in Kentucky, we get so much like hot weather. And I know it was hot in Michigan, but I just like the fall, and we had a pretty decent fall. I felt like it didn't go overnight. It wasn't, winter. So, it's been a good fall, and now we're moving into the holidays, and can't believe it's almost the end of the year, and it's crazy how fast time's going, but it's the way it goes. But how's everything going with you in Michigan?
It's going good. So, like you, the lake effect snow machine has kicked off in Michigan. Winter came a little early for us as well, yesterday and today. So I am in a part of the room I'm trying to where it's not snow glare. So we have where I'm at probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches on the ground. So a lot of glare where I normally would be. So I am hanging out in my college student's bedroom, and I tried to
Awesome.
make it
Hey,
as good as I could. And I got my intern at my feet. She was on the bed. So if you see a dog jumping around, running
oh,
around, it's one of my four-legged helpers.
I love that.
But you got to do what you got to do, right?
That's right. Yeah. No, I can hear you loud and clear, and it's great. Obviously enjoy connecting to people all over the country, all over the world. I've got some really fun guests scheduled already for next year in other parts of the world. And so it's just so fun to meet global HR professionals and talk about their day to day. And you've been going on through a lot of your HR journey and the things you've done. So really interested to hear more about that. For those of you who are new, I do have obviously new people signed up for this live. So we had a really good group that registered to watch this live on LinkedIn or YouTube. So if you are watching live, welcome. Thank you for hanging out and spending part of your Monday with us. The chat is open. So if you have questions along the way or just have any comments, please chime in. And we definitely love the engagement. That's what's fun about this Speakeasy HR podcast. It's uncut, unfiltered, and we just have authentic conversations. If you haven't gone out to the website, speakeasyhr.com, have a brand new blog about mindfulness. Been doing a yearly, every week I've been posting a new blog on a word. And so close to the end of the year, I started working on the final last few this morning. And so there are weekly blogs out there on top of others. I recently posted a blog about a word that I feel like I invented. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me or not, but you can go out there and check the blog out. And it's all about AI, human connection, and something we're going to get into a little bit today, and how we're trying to bring humanity back into leadership. So go out to speakeasyhr.com and check that out. But Tina Marie, you have started a few things in Michigan that when I first started talking to you, I thought it was so cool that you were doing this, and I haven't had a chance to attend HRUnite. But if you want to tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what you've been working on in HR, and you've been doing Disrupt HR, which is another reason why we've connected, and I've gotten to pick your brain a little bit. So go back in time and just kind of get us up to speed on what you've been up to in HR.
So it's almost as if there should be a Hallmark card for people. I call myself vintage, but
Vintage.
I from my corporate side of HR, my journey, I was non-traditional. Many of us fell into the HR profession, and I started in corporate training because I worked for a national restaurant chain and was going to school pursuing a music degree. But I double majored in business, and then I wound up in HR because at that time, American Idol didn't exist and MTV was not calling. That's where I was kind of introduced to the HR aspect. So when I started my college journey, and I'm not even going to tell you when, other than I may be the same age as this episode, probably a Gen Xer, but in the 90s, I was ultimately going to pursue a degree in education, and there was one job for every 10 of us. And so music ed wasn't calling, but I double majored in business, and corporate training allowed me kind of to get that education piece, my ability to help people learn, facilitate learning. And that's where I started dabbling in HR and operations. And so over the course of my HR career, I'm going to just fast forward. I worked in financial services, small business, large business, got exposed to a little bit of consulting, working in the insurance industry. But part of my journey where I am today in 2018, I worked with a fabulous leader. His name is Gerald Chittick. He's in marketing. He's like, and he's in the insurance industry. But he was our chief marketing officer, and I was a regional HR leader and got to support his area. And I remember sitting with him one day, it was actually President's Day 2018. And he kind of nudged me and said, "What are you doing? Like, you could and should be doing this for more than just one company. Like you're not like the others. So how do you replicate that?" And he nudged me to write my book. He nudged me to kind of take this journey. And he was right. I want to help organizations be better stewards of people. And if I was able to do that for one organization, how do I translate that into others? And so Gerald knows he's one of my favorite people on this planet. He's a phenomenal leader, and he's doing such great work, not just from a diversity open doors in the insurance industry, but just his work in marketing and in all of his leadership skills. So that's kind of where TIMAWO started. And around that time that I was going through the evolution with kind of figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And we all go through that. HRUnite started, and HRUnite started from a need because as HR professionals, we get wrapped up with what's going on in the four walls we do business. And we forget to look outside, and we forget that there's other people out there doing what we do. And the more we connect and share our stories, the better we support each other, the better we are as an HR community. And so the coffee talkies started. There were some happy hours and things that started before that, but really what launched HRUnite as a whole was this concept called coffee talkies. And so one Friday in September, I posted on LinkedIn I was going to be at a Big B Coffee. I'm a big fan of Big B's. Started in Michigan. And now they're everywhere. But I was going to be at a Big B Coffee, and this is right after I'd launched my company, like a month into it, and I was feeling isolated and alone. I said, I'm going to be here. I'm going to have coffee. Who wants to have an HR coffee talkie? 13 people showed up, 11 of which are still meeting today, and we are going into year 8. Wow. And so it became this accountability circle, this supportive mechanism where we listened, shared, supported, grew. There was nothing, no barriers such as, well, you're not a CHRO, or you're in this industry, or you don't have this experience, or you didn't go to this school. It was people in HR connecting with other people in HR. And so this started, and then people heard about it. And I'm like, how do I start it in this city? And they just kind of organically evolved. We have coffee talkies meeting in like 5 or 6 states. Some of them are virtual, some of them are in person, some of them are hybrid. But these communities that have been there to support people at all levels of their career have been so impactful. I mean, I wouldn't have got through the COVID year, like that initial 24 months, but really that initial 12 months navigating COVID as an HR professional, if I didn't have that group. And so it evolved. We started doing other things. We started getting together for days of development to share our story. And HR Leaders on Leadership is this platform to allow people to tell their HR stories so others can connect and grow from it. And then this conference happened. And the conference is we're going into our 7th year. We meet in Frankenmuth, Michigan. All but one year has been in Frankenmuth. And for those that don't know about Frankenmuth, let me tell you, it's the world's largest Christmas stores located in Frankenmuth. It is about a half mile long. It's called Bronner's. But the
Yep.
other thing, it is also known as Little Bavaria. It is literally like going to a little Bavarian German town in mid-Michigan, and you get authentic chicken dinners. They wear lederhosen. There's several families that are within that community, the Zender family, and there's such a wonderful family that care about people, that kind of bring the community together. And I couldn't think of a better place than to connect, share, and grow than Frankenmuth in a Bavarian Inn Lodge, which is like an old time lodge. We're in this big lodge coming together. And so I took a leap, and we had our first conference, and we've sold out every year. And so it's intimately designed,
Yeah.
David. So there's no more than 100, 110 people, because in order for us to be part of the conversation, the group has to be small enough to foster those connections and conversations. And
Yeah.
so speakers break bread with our attendees. Steve Brown has taken that stage, and he loves buttered noodles and walks along the Cass River. Who doesn't? In July of all days. But this year in 2026, we have Katrina Kibben. Kat will be
Okay.
taking the stage. And so we're able to bring national speakers to this small, intimate audience environment. And there's nothing like it. I mean, literally, you'll laugh, you'll cry, and the connections just remind us of how to be better stewards of people. So there's
Yeah.
my very short, condensed version.
Well, you've told me a little bit about Coffee Talkie, and the people that I know have gone to it. Some of them have been on this podcast already, so I've gotten to see, just through having FOMO of, not being there, but I've seen what it is just through LinkedIn and people posting pictures. And I do have it up, the QR code for next year's conference. If anyone is interested in learning more, you can go to HRUnites and see the conference for next year. So hopefully I'll get up there at some point in the near future, because I think that's just what's so fun and interesting about HR. I know a lot of people are burned out in HR, but I feel like if you can find the right group, the right environment to really elevate your passion for your career. Some people go to state conferences and national conferences, and thousands of people are there. So people get a lot out of that too, but I think this can just bring that intimate setting, like you said, and what your intention is. And same with Disrupt HR and doing those events. Those are a lot different. They are obviously a one night event. This is not a one night event. It's 2 or 3 days.
3.
So you get more time to spend with other people that you might see on LinkedIn or go on podcasts, things like that. So if you haven't been to HRUnite, check it out. And again, hopefully I'll be up there at some point in the near future, maybe to meet everybody else that's watching this and have been a part of it. So I know Jill McCarthy is one that I've connected with, and I remember when she was going to it, she was talking to me about coming on here, and I had told her about Frankenmuth, and that it's definitely a place I've been many a times growing up, going to different things for school and track meets and soccer tournaments. So it's a very unique setting. It's a very unique setting for the state of Michigan. So check it out if you are looking for a new event next year. And like you said, it sells out pretty quick. So got to get on it.
And small little connection, how Disrupt HR also brings people together. It's a forum where people teach me or share something new or challenge the way or disrupt the right way I approach all things people. Jill and I met when we both spoke at Disrupt HR South Bend a couple of years ago. I'm going to say
Okay.
I'm going to say it was 2023.
Yeah. Okay.
And we were connected through a mutual, very near and dear friend of ours, Noel Parsons. And so I will say, if you don't know Jill, you definitely want to connect with her. She is amazing. And she has become a mainstay with us at the HRUnite conference. But anytime we can come together in a room and talk honest conversations about HR, beautiful relationships happen because of it, including platforms such as this. So David, thank you for bringing people together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's having it virtual versus in person. Obviously, there's a different vibe. And I was just talking to somebody. She was she was traveling for a keynote speaking engagement, and she was just talking about the travel issues that people are having right now. So travel with something like this platform, there's obviously never a problem with that because it's all virtual. Obviously, having good Wi-Fi and that kind of stuff, technology is important, but being able to connect virtually is a little different than in person. But I really enjoy meeting people and talking to them like we do with this, and just hearing people's perspectives and how I bring people on the show and really help them bring their passion to a topic that they feel like they can bring and share amongst the crowd listening and being engaging with the audience. It's I always learn from having people on, and I cannot wait to dive into your topic as we go to it. But no, I really appreciate you coming on, Tina Marie, and I just think everything you're doing, the coffee talkie is, I remember you mentioned that, and it's really incredible. So okay, so the world famous envelope icebreaker game. This is brand new questions for my second year of this podcast. So it's 1 through 15, and I'll give you a couple of seconds to think of a number 1 through 15, and we'll see what's inside that envelope before I have you pick the number. Just think of a number. I'm going to transition a little bit here if I can make it work. All right. So 1 through 15, what do you got?
I'm going with number 8 because it was my youngest son's birthday on Saturday. He was born on the 8th.
All right. Well, happy birthday to your son. Here's number 8. And what do we got in number 8? Okay. What's your I wasn't expecting to love this moment in your career?
Oh, that's a tough one. Okay, so I will say this. So when I was getting my graduate degree, and I'm going to go back to high school, I was really bad in math. Like, I struggled.
Yeah.
And I actually humbly failed statistics the first time I took it in my graduation program,
Okay.
like MBA. And I came back and the whole class failed, though. So in my defense, it wasn't just me, it was all of us. But I will say it's amazing on how much analytics is kind of embedded in HR, and we use business decision support. And I did a lot of work in compensation. Don't tell anybody, because that's all the kind of calls I'm going to get for comp help. But I will say I never imagined that I would truly appreciate the power of statistical analytics and excel in pulling that data and literally having data tell the story, as much as I literally got a business science degree because I did not get a BBA because I wanted to avoid anything math related in my undergrad program. So from somebody that is not math inclined to having this appreciation and love for data and using data to tell the story the right way, is something I would have never anticipated. I mean, I came into HR because I want to impact people's lives, not because I want to, tell you the standard deviation of something. But it kind of fell into that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny. I've had one person in 51 episodes, when she was explaining getting into HR, she said, I knew at a young age, at about 7 years old, I wanted to be in HR. She would practice, and instead of playing with dolls, she would practice firing people. And her mom was in HR, so she knew what she did. And I'm like, you might be the only one that comes on and tells me about when you were 7, you wanted to be in HR, and what you saw as your parents were doing HR. So it's yeah, most people just stumble into HR. They get into it and they love it and they stay with it. But yeah, it's not something you usually wake up as a 8th grader, when you're 13 and you're like, oh, I want to be in HR. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Well, thanks for playing the envelope icebreaker game. I do have another question before we dive into the topic. And I've been asking recent guests this question because I feel like every time I ask it, people will give me such an honest answer, and it might be one a little bit challenging to answer, and that's okay, but whatever comes to your mind. So, what's the biggest piece of advice you've ever received in your career?
The biggest piece of advice I've ever received in my career came from one of my first early leaders when I was early. I'm going to say I was within 5 to 10 years in my HR career. So I was learning.
Yeah.
And it was from a VP I reported to. He was a VP of HR, and his name was Jim.
Okay.
And the biggest advice he gave me was don't look at no as a door closer, but a door opener. And he taught me how to better defend or present a business need or business case or get people together to have dialogue about something. And
Yeah.
it drove me nuts initially. He would always, every time I would say, here, should we consider this? His answer was always no. And I'm like, but he eventually let me know why he was doing that. And I'm still very grateful for him
Yeah.
for doing that.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I haven't pulled this out yet, but I'm going to pull this out because this is my mini air horn, Speakeasy HR. Love that. Love that answer because, yeah, who wants to be told no? I feel like, and we'll get into the topic and talk about it even more because it's like people in leadership right now have such a great opportunity to implement the right technology, but still have that humanity and connection with their team because that's going to still be so important. So, thanks for sharing all that, and really appreciate you. Um, you know, I don't know how hard of a question that was. I feel like you were really ready to answer that. You didn't even know I was asking that.
I
So,
didn't, but I will tell you, it is something that I've carried on. And
yeah,
wow, it's been 20 years since I've worked
wow.
for Jim.
Well, good job,
Almost 20
Jim.
years.
Yeah, it's when you work that long and you have something in your mind that sticks with you like that, it's like this is advice that I will always remember. And so I'm hopeful that people always have that, or if they don't have that yet, maybe they will soon in their job. So all right, a few messages from our sponsor payroll partners, and then we're going to get into it. So grab a drink. If your dog has to go outside, whatever you got to do, you got about a minute, and we're going to dive into your topic. Hold on one second.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, posting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
So as we wind down the year, if you're looking to evaluate tech for payroll, HR, and really want to find maybe a regional better support group, better support team, look us up, payrollpartners.net. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with you and just hear about your situation and how we can maybe help. So, all right. Well, Tina Marie, we have been talking for many months and having you on Speakeasy HR. So I feel like we've connected for a while now on a couple levels, as I had mentioned for Disrupt HR and getting involved in a couple of upcoming events myself locally here in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. So we're going to be doing some Disrupt events. And so in the meantime, we've talked about topics and what you feel like really would resonate with your background and your passion. And you had brought up you had brought up a couple of topics, and one of them that I feel like stood out was this bringing humanity back to leadership and being it beyond the metrics and things that people are really focusing right now on with AI and technology and how it's always changing. So defining humanity and leadership, when you think about humanity and leadership, what does that mean to you personally?
Well, I think that means that we need to realize we are people leading people. And so the decisions we make impact the people we lead.
Mm,
And oftentimes, as leaders, we get very, I'm going to say, tactical, very process focused, very matter of fact, versus kind of having an understanding the perceptions, how our actions, how our messaging will be perceived
yeah,
by those we serve.
yeah,
The other aspect is when we get so, especially in HR, even though we are stewards of people, we are so, we hide behind our policies and our processes. And oftentimes, there's a way that we can be, manage the risk of the organization as well as doing what's right for the people within it. And we need to find better ways to do that and realize that policies are there as guardrails. But there's this thing, and I tend to always say people are messy, but in the best way.
yeah,
And oftentimes we don't want anything to do with the messy. We're either do it like this, and this is the way we're going to do it, instead of sitting down and having a conversation with somebody to understand the why.
yeah,
Why, you know, why are they questioning? Why are they behaving this way? What are their concerns? What got us to that point? And so I feel there's a lot of areas of opportunity to discuss this topic on so many levels. And I know we're going to hit on a few points today when we dive further in our conversation. But when we getting back to the whole of it, we need to treat people as people. And if we treat people as people, which means we're honest in the conversations we have, some conversations we avoid because people are messy and that's going to upset them. Well, maybe we need to be honest and have that conversation with them now, because it's the best for everybody to allow them to grow, to allow us to achieve what we're trying to achieve together, instead of avoiding those conversations. Or looking at flexibility in policies. And so there are times, we'll look at remote work, David. There are times where somebody needs to be in the office because the function they do cannot be performed, or maybe they need more hands-on oversight or training or mentorship. And so we're asking them to be in the office than somebody who can't. And so having a conversation about why remote work may or may not work for employee A versus how it may or may not work for employee B, we just say all or nothing, because we don't want to, again, deal with the messy part in the middle.
Hey friends, Marty Robbins here, host of Vibe Makers, a podcast now on the Work Defined Network. Look, we all know workplace culture doesn't come from a slide deck. Gross. It comes from people. So on Vibe Makers, I talk to the folks shaping the experience of work from the inside out. You know, the HR and people ops folk, founders, leaders, and misfits building culture through small bets, big beliefs, and a whole lot of trial and error. No fluff. Well, maybe a little fluff, but mainly just candid talk about what happens when you stop duct taping your culture together. Come check us out. Listen to Vibe Makers wherever you get your podcasts.
yep, yep. I've heard a lot about empathy, it feels like this year, and leading with empathy. So how can leaders balance the empathy and accountability without sacrificing performance?
Well, if we treat people with respect, if they trust us as a leader, if they trust that we're being honest and authentic with them,
Hmm.
that we acknowledge them as people. And so I'm going to say empathy. Here's an example of empathy. And I was recently coaching a manager on this situation, but I've personally been in this situation myself as a leader. So having a conversation with an employee that was not conducting themselves professionally, we'll just say they had a verbal diarrhea. And sometimes we get to that point where what that trigger is,
Yep.
and it's a trigger we can move a barrier, again, block, tackle, remove that barrier. But in this case, there was a lot with this leader. This leader was the person came after this meeting. So let's just say there was 4 people in this meeting, higher level leader. Let's just say a executive at the company was in a meeting with several people. This person had a moment, probably wasn't their best reflection of them from their professionalism, et cetera. So that VP, that executive, the person came into their office to kind of, you know, post meeting, I think they recognized they had a moment. And what the leader told me was, you know what, I'm not going to agree with their behavior, but I'm going to listen and I'm going to acknowledge that they feel the way they do. That is empathy in action. That is us not dismissing this person as a person. We have to recognize the person reacted because there was a trigger, versus I could come in and ultimately that we're coaching the other person on what's going on, right? What that issue is.
Yeah.
But leading through empathy is acknowledging and listening. Say, I recognize how you feel. Let's talk about how your actions may be perceived by others. And let's kind of talk about how that may not have been in your intent. We talk through that. But it's important for us to recognize and listen. And a lot of the frustration our employees have, it doesn't matter if you work in a 10-person organization or a 100,000-person organization, is they feel they're not recognized and heard. At least if we listen, we don't have to agree. But if we acknowledge them, okay, I acknowledge you have concerns. I'm going to listen to your concerns. I'm not going to dismiss them. I'm not going to gaslight you, but I'm going to acknowledge and listen. And then we can talk about it. That's empathy through action. It's recognizing when somebody's struggling. And instead of us going automatically put them on a PIP, I call them plans for success, by the way, because I'm trying to change that narrative, because our goal is to have them improve on whatever they need to improve. But that's a whole other conversation. But when we put somebody on a performance improvement plan, we need to do it with compassion and empathy to say, what can we do to support you? What do you need? What can I do to help you be successful? What support do you need to overcome these challenges? And that, again, is approaching things from, I want to help. I'm not here to punitively or negative reinforcement you out of this organization. And so that's being empathetic. Empathy is acknowledging that the other person may not think or agree with you, but they do think differently. And it's allowing them to have that perception. And so oftentimes leadership is one-sided, and we need to get back to recognizing that there's a person behind it.
So you call a PIP a plan for success, PFS? I like that.
Yeah, it takes the negative. Ironically, my older son, he is an education major, and he's on the bowling team. So I got to hang out with him all weekend because college bowling season is going on.
Oh,
and
wow.
so we sat in a hotel room having a conversation, because he has education psychology. And we were talking about negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement when you're trying to change behaviors, the psychology around it. And when you say performance improvement plan, that's a negative. There's a negative stigma and a negative connotation to that, that I'm being punished, and therefore I'll never be able to recover. If we change it to a plan for success, which means here's what the issue is, here's what you need to do to get better, here's the accountability of both the manager, leader, the resources we're giving you, and you, the employee. It's making it more of a positive reinforcement, because our goal is for you to get better, not for us to document your performance to boot you out of the organization. And that is an empathetic way of approaching that, or again, from a psychological perspective, changing it, taking away some of that negative. The accountability piece is still there. If legally, or, having a conversation with, when constructive discharge, I'm going to say, that's not a word. Constructive discharge is bad. When sometimes at the end of this, we cannot control the outcome, because only the employee can control the outcome. There are times where this doesn't work, but we've done all the necessary steps to provide them opportunities to succeed. We're doing everything right. And should there be challenges to that process, you have the documentation to show you were there to support the employee.
Absolutely. And I've been in organizations, and they call them performance improvement plans. And I just feel like a lot of employees, that when they go on them, I've seen them successful, go through them. And like, it's just like you said, it's that wording and the psychology around it. It's like, if you're trying to help that person get better and be successful and set them up for success, then just changing the words in what you call the document, what you call the meetings and all that can really make a big deal. And in the employees' minds, it can really help them just have a better attitude, Uh, Taylor on LinkedIn, she had chimed in. I wanted to bring that up. I think this is a main struggle with the neurodivergent community. A lot of the corporate side of things still don't understand the messy side of it. And I will say, Taylor, go back to episode 18. I had Sammy Kelly. Her whole company is about neurodivergent uh, situations, and it's called Beyond Neurodivergency. That she's helping companies do that. That main thing is getting and understanding employees and if they are neurodivergent to really help them. Because again, if you put someone on a uh, what do you call it?
Plan for
Performance plan
success.
for success. If you put someone on a plan for success, like it has to be so personalized to that specific person. And if you don't know how they will digest that plan, it it can have the same structure, but you really have to make it so personalized to that person because people learn different.
Mhm.
They take information in differently. So thanks for bringing that up, Taylor. That is a really good point. Um, So measuring what matters, Tina Marie, if you were to redefine success beyond the metrics, uh, what would you measure instead?
Quality versus quantity.
Okay.
And again, we're going to subject, you can still have quantitative ways to measure using subjective, per se, subjective criteria. And so I think one of the way we should measure, and this is something I advocate for, and I'm a profound change, which profoundly, I cannot talk today, it's Monday. What profoundly changed the way I practice HR is the concept of radical curiosity. And it started with when I was talking about Jim, when he said a door just because it doesn't open doesn't mean it's not an opportunity.
Right.
But when we look at radical curiosity, especially with metrics, for me, what sometimes we measure outcomes, not the process taken to achieve those outcomes.
Yeah.
And so if we apply, I would much rather have somebody, let's just talk about in sales. You work for a service provider. So I would much rather look at the process somebody is taking to achieve that sale or that project, the way they're approaching conflict, the way that they're approaching problem solving, the way that they're managing their workload. Even if it's not resulting in a closed sale, I will look at those as more subjective measurements, which we can quantify versus how many sales they closed. And so oftentimes we have people that close sales, that close them, and then the sales don't materialize or we don't retain those clients versus if you look at client retention from the people that are very methodical and are doing it the right way or based on your pillars of values, whatever, then you have more of a sustainable or a longer term quantifiable success rate. But sometimes we're so close to we want the easy way out. We want quick and easily, quantifiable results.
Yeah.
And so sometimes sales closed isn't a good quantifiable measurement of success. And so sometimes it's getting people to look at the process that employees is taking, and all of these, I don't call them soft skills. They're just core workforce readiness skills, adaptability, resiliency, problem solving, curiosity, and take those traits and look at them to measure for success. But we're looking at revenues. We're looking at the fastest way to generate revenues versus sustainable profits.
Yeah. Yeah. So authenticity and trust, I know is super important in the workplace. Doesn't matter the company size at all. So how can leaders really create trust and psychological safety in the workplace that often rewards perfection over authenticity?
So I think one of the ways is to be transparent and communicate, even if we don't have all the information.
Hmm.
One way to build authenticity is understanding that leaders make mistakes and owning them. So
Mhm.
one way is if we make a mistake, we need to own it and be in forthright with that. Like we need to be in front of it. Another piece is from a communication standpoint is to overly communicate. And oftentimes we assume people know what's going on, or we use the power of knowledge as, to our advantage. I'm going to say, I don't want to say we weaponize it, but some people they do. Knowledge is
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
And so if we are transparent and authentic and we do what we say and say what we do, we build trust and credibility with those that we serve. Oftentimes leaders don't. They don't follow through on what they say they're going to do. They don't make time and space for their employees. They check a box when they do performance reviews,
Yep.
when they have to do it, and are not authentic in their evaluation. They wait a year to say, oh, okay, David, you didn't do something 8 months ago. You're not getting a raise, versus having an honest conversation and making space for those individuals when they need support.
Yeah.
And I think a good leader gets to know their people as people. And again, with boundaries, keep in mind, we
Yep.
are in HR with boundaries, but gets to know their people and then builds that trust with them. So when they do have to communicate negative information or bad, they have to have a difficult conversation with you, they can do it in a way where they're still respected. And a lot of leaders struggle with that.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody teaches you there's not a book that will teach you how to lead. A lot of that is an experience game. And we learn bad behaviors from bad leaders.
Yeah.
And we also get PTSD
Yeah.
from bad leaders, and that carries with you. And, oftentimes, some of the coaching work I do, because I help them figure out the messy part in the middle, is getting them to recognize that situation. We don't want to discount how you feel, but that situation is not indicative of every situation from it. But as humans, we are wired, so we are triggered to respond to a situation we perceive as a threat. And that was a trauma-based situation
Yep.
for you. So we got to help you understand how to work through your trauma so you don't apply that to every situation going forward.
Absolutely.
Which is hard. We have to recognize that.
Oh, yeah. I have left a job because of the way I was managed. I didn't respect the manager, and I just had to make that decision to start looking for a job. I liked the company. I liked most of the job, and I was early on in my HR career, and I just said, this is not for me. I was there for definitely more time than the average at a company, and I just had different managers, and every manager was different. And so when people are in that situation and they just lose respect for the manager, they don't have the trust in their manager or the leadership, it can really make a very difficult. I mean, it can just put people in a very difficult situation, and you'll lose people because of that. Um, so reconnecting with purpose. How do leaders help their teams reconnect with why they do the work, not just what they produce?
I think that's really important for us to recognize that their contributions are meaningful, and we have to connect this line of sight. Here's what I do and how it has an influence or an impact on our overall strategic goal. And that's where we can better connect the work people do to the work itself. And that can be done in multiple facets. Recognizing people for the work they're doing, recognizing for curiosity, and allowing and having conversations. I'm going to say more on the talent management side, but we can sit down with somebody and say, what is it that you love about this job? Tell me what you love.
Yeah.
People ask me if I could do anything. I say I'd be a barista at the Big B or Starbucks, because I love coffee and I love talking to people. So
Coffee talk?
yeah, there you go. If we can connect that person for the work they're doing, and here's that thing that drives them, then we can better leverage that passion and that purpose into higher productivity, into retention, into us aligning and realizing we're all working together for a common goal. But we don't sit down. I mean, I don't know how many organizations managers ask that question. I do as a leader, but not everybody is willing to sit down and say, what is it do you want to do? Well, we're in manufacturing. We're not in the coffee business, so I can't help you there. But you can. So sometimes we need to recognize that we have taken our star employees and only as far as they can go here, and that another organization needs them, or they need another organization to continue their growth. And we have to be comfortable setting them free.
Yeah.
And I have had conversations with employees that have said, look, I'm not sure. I see that you want to go here. I'm willing to help support you and open any door I can and give you any work-based experience that will help you get those transferable skills. But what you've done everything you can here, and we may not be able to give you what you need.
Yeah.
And having those honest conversations with employees. People are not comfortable doing that. They're like, wow, if I lose David, we're in trouble. He's a key employee. Like, he has all this institutional knowledge.
Yep.
But we can't keep you here, right? We can't hoard you as a talent. And so the more we have those conversations that connect people to the work they want to do, like, what is it that you know? How do you learn? And what is it that drives you? What is that purpose? What is it that you love to do?
Yep.
When you get everybody to saying what we need as an organization and what they need, that's talent alignment.
Yep.
And that is that's when all things are, filling. You're running at full cylinders. That's a highly aligned organization. But I don't know if leaders are ready to come to the conclusion that you're having honest conversations may result in talent leaving. Yeah. And you may be a barrier holding this person back from fulfilling that purpose. And I thank Gerald Chittick for telling me that, like, hey, have you thought about it? You need a nudge. And he nudged me, which I'm grateful for. But it's an important concept for leaders to recognize that the more we can connect people and what they love to do to the work they're doing, that's purpose. That's motivating productivity. That's the biggest influencer to behavior. And that's a skill that people, sometimes leaders, need to learn how they can take it. They can hone or motivate or nurture those aspects. And we're working on it. It's a work in progress.
Tammy was in earlier, Tammy Castro, and she had to jump off. So thanks for jumping in, Tammy. She said, may we all remain curious. And I think that's the case. I mean, for a leader to have good leadership skills, you've got to have that curiosity with your team, and you got to find a way to connect with them so that human-centered leadership and practicing it and getting better at it over time. I feel like any leader can learn something from each of their direct reports to help them become a better leader. And just because you have a bunch of really good team members, you still can learn. I mean, it's difficult to manage people. It's difficult. Mm-hmm. It's not easy. And so it's just a very, very important piece of an organization's success. Like, you can pay people great. You can give them pay increases. If they're not getting recognized on a consistent basis and they're not growing, every time I have an interview on a phone call with someone right now, if they're not laid off, they're telling me I have no growth opportunities in my company right now. I'm looking for that. Can you offer that? So that's what I'm hearing all the time when I'm talking to people. So
it's such an interesting environment that, looking at this concept from the leader lens and then looking at it from a direct report. So we have leaders that lead other leaders. Mm-hmm. And I was having a conversation with a manager that worked for a leader that one-on-ones were merely work in progress. At no point did they say, what support can I give for you to be successful? Or it was the customer's always right, didn't block and tackle. And that did nothing for that individual, and it did nothing for their growth, and it didn't help support them. They felt like they weren't even recognized. And so them trying to lead other people, right? It's like this trickle down effect. Thankfully, the manager, so the person, the leader, not the higher level leader, that was just more work in progress, but the manager below them was the type of manager that they eventually left and took a role in another division of the organization. And it was a promotion. But when that manager left, they had 10 employees that reported them. So their span of control was way too big, but they had met with them, and he'd always ask them, the Tony Moore, if everybody doesn't know who Tony Moore is, he is he's the culture architect. He is a leadership whisperer, and he's somebody I know and I have followed, but it's red light, green light, yellow. But he's always asked them, like, what can I do to support you now? Is there anything you need? Asking those questions of how they can help support them. And what do you want me to start doing? What do you want me to stop doing? And what do you want me to continue doing to help support you as a leader? And that helped him identify what he needed to do for those 10 employees who all needed 10 different things at 10 different stages of their careers.
Yep.
But we as leaders need to help empower future leaders or current leaders that are in the trenches. And that's those middle managers who are really navigating the waters, oftentimes alone or on a boat in a storm with no hope in sight. What we can do to support them as leaders. And I think that's a big opportunity for us to be better at, helping people be better, putting humanity back into leadership, because the problem isn't those middle managers they're trying. It's the higher level leaders that are so KPI focused. They don't care. It's like, achieve it at any results. And I don't care if you're working 80 hours a week. That's not my problem. Get the work done.
Yeah. My past guest that was on for episode 50 talked about having mentors in their career and having a board of mentors in your life, and different mentors that you should have, and asking your manager, like, hey, what are 2 or 3 people that you feel like could be a good mentor for me, either in these walls or out of these walls? So again, I go back to that being a big part of it, because some of the things that you need to learn and develop, you may not be able to learn within your day-to-day role to be a better leader. And so I thought that was just really fascinating. So if you are listening and didn't check out the last episode 50, go back and check that. You can find that on Work Define. You can find that out on speakeasyhr.com and see what Peter said about that. So the future of leadership, Tina Marie. So looking into the future, what advice would you give emerging leaders who want to bring more humanity into their leadership style, but feel pressured to hit those numbers? How would you give them advice in that situation?
So I'm going back to it. I think Tammy said it in the comment. We need to be more curious. We need to know the right questions to ask. So when you look at radical curiosity, you're asking questions to be a more informed, data-informed decision maker. So you're asking questions so you can better collaborate, to better understand, to better propose a solution. And those are all ways that when we can understand what the numbers are and where the people are at, how we can engage in the middle. So leveraging questions, asking the right questions to understand. My boys will say that's the HR face. Help me understand. But you're doing it to understand, not to pass judgment. And it also checks biases in the process. So that's step number 1 that I would say leverage in your toolbox. You have to understand where the side is coming from to understand how you can meet in the middle or engage in a conversation that is not defensive in nature. You're not questioning their decision. You're helping to understand so you can better implement or identify barriers to success or other possible alternatives. Radical curiosity also in that process, it spurs ideation and innovation. So again, when you start having those conversations, help me understand, then you're better at coming up with new ideas. You're also able to understand different perspectives, and it builds inclusion. So all of those things, when you're doing it, are putting people at the center of your business decisions as a leader. You're bringing people into the conversation, people in the impacts on your people into consideration, and it allows you to be a better leader. But in the process, it also checks your biases and gives error corrections. And sometimes we think we know an answer, and in HR, we're so quick to come out and say, this is the answer before we even hear all of the story. This allows you really to navigate the opportunities in the middle. And I will tell you, I was recently at the Michigan SHRM conference, the annual SHRM conference in Michigan, and I sit on the committee, but we have the HR student games. And I was up talking to students. We had 4 universities there, and they asked me that same question, like, what advice do you have from us? And I literally gave them that same advice, because it won't just help you in leadership. It'll just help you in life.
Yep.
Like bringing people together, constructive dialogue, navigating conflict. If you understand somebody's position, especially think about BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. If you understand where that other position is coming from, you can bring people in the middle. And let me just tell you, friends, we need to meet people in the middle for dialogue more today than we have in my entire life. And so it's a really critical piece, I think. Same thing with just understanding that people have lives outside of the workplace. They are with us more than they're often with their loved ones or outside of work. And if somebody is challenging, I will give this story as an example of why this is important. I had an employee that was a little late, was starting to have a tardy issue. And it was like, well, it's our attendance policy is this. And so I, rather than go straight to, you've missed 4, I sat down with them. I said, hey, what's going on? Well, come to find out, they're after school, school age childcare. I think that's the we call it latchkey, whatever you have, before and after care for those in elementary. Okay. They lost their accreditation. So this person had to drive them to school and was having challenges getting to work. So can I remove a barrier? Yes. So you know what? We came up with a flexible schedule to allow them to drop their child off because they were in recruiting. David, we know we can recruit. When do people mostly take recruiting calls? I don't know, after 5 when they're not in the workplace. So I already know this person's working 5 to 8. So what I did was created a flexible schedule for them, and I met them where they're at. I'm like, okay, you have this challenge. What can I do to alleviate this stress? I can control this. Can you work this flexible schedule? Can I monitor to make sure they're still meeting and productive in their work? Yep. Did I not lose a good employee? Yep. Did the tardiness issue go away? Yep. And it's those kinds of conversations that I think help us understand where we can meet people in the middle and help them create opportunities for success. And it's outside the policy norm because we're meeting them where they're at as people.
Absolutely. I think that's great. And as my board says, champions adjust. So that can be a company that champions that, and adjusting and being flexible. It's 2025 and companies have to do that. And doesn't mean you just give everybody the chance to work from home and be remote. You know, it's what do they have going on in their situation? Do they have elderly parents going through health issues? Is it they're starting a family and just having their first child? You know, like how can you, like you said, meet somebody in the middle and where they're at in their current non-work situation? And you can't be, I mean, you have to be fair and consistent, obviously. You can't just say yes to everything, but in reason, you have to see the situation as it is. And if you can't accommodate that person, what's going to happen? They're going to probably leave and you're going to lose them. Then you got to find a place, or you're going to have to find a replacement for that person. And is that position a hard one to fill? You know, and you know, so that's so important in leadership right now, and how managers can really connect to their team, provide them with that like sense that you said of like what are your hopes and dreams, what are you passionate about, how can we provide that to you? And the more you can do that, the better off you'll be. And that's way beyond metrics. Metrics are great, you know, but they're only taking us so far. So Well, this has been so fun. I could go into way more piece of this topic because I feel like I only got to half of the questions I had written down, but that's okay. And I want to bring this up again for people still watching. If you are interested in HRUnite 2026 next summer in Frankenmuth, Michigan, having some amazing food, for the amazing conversations I haven't been in yet live. Maybe I'll be there one day and get a chance to experience it. So if you've been to it, you know what I'm talking about. But anything else you want to bring up? I know I didn't bring this one up yet, but this is TIMAWO. This is your company, correct? So tell us quickly what your main function is with this. You are the uh, Chief People Strategist at TIMAWO.
Yes. So I work with organizations to help them better connect the work people do to the work being done. And I help with people strategy. So it allows me oftentimes to work with HR teams that maybe need a little help elevating. Sometimes I get brought in to when there's a gap to help develop a leader or give them space to breathe. And also help them improve on their people experience. So when they do put people at the forefront of decisions, helping them understand their people, process, profits, and profit. I'm missing one. People, process, profits, purpose. So we kind of work on those things, but I just help them, figure out and navigate HR strategy. I'm not a recruiter. I do work with organizations such as David's that do some of the things that can help you. But I am a strategist. So I help facilitate organizations learning to be better stewards of people.
That's so fun. I really enjoyed this, Tina Marie. It's been great to connect with you. And, again, hopefully we can meet in person sometime and have coffee, something, some Zender's chicken. I don't know, something like that.
Buttered
So,
noodles.
buttered noodles. Yes. It's been a while since I've been up there, but I think I need to go back soon. So, well, thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best in this holiday season as we're getting into it. And again, I've got some exciting episodes coming up. I've got a fun one on Wednesday. I'll be at a happy hour in Cincinnati for the local SHRM chapter. We're doing a live episode. So that'll be kind of a first. Hopefully it'll all go out with a bang and not have any technical issues, but that'll be live on Wednesday. So if you have any interest in joining us, it'll be at SHRM. It'll be a Mad Tree Brewing Company on Wednesday with Cincy SHRM. So check that out. Cannot wait to be there live. And I think there's about 100 people scheduled to come. So it'll be a live audience. Never done that before. So it'll be fun. Be a lot of fun. So thanks, Tina Marie. Great to have you on, and wish everybody a happy holiday season. And we'll talk to you real soon.
Have a fantastic day and enjoy the rest of your 2025.
Thank you very much. See you later.